The storm over Aaron's frozen valley came fast and without mercy. Wind screamed across the open plain, carrying fine ice that sliced through clothing like tiny blades. Mira pulled her scarf tighter around her neck and lifted her headlamp. Her breath came out in sharp clouds that froze against the inside of her mask. She had worked salvage runs before, but nothing compared to the cold desolation of this place. Her hover sled glided behind her. Loaded with old satellite plates and broken relay parts she had found buried under the snow, the colony paid well for anything that could be repaired or melted down. Still, Mira was out here for more than pay. She wanted something different. Something that could change how people saw their small, struggling colony. Her radio crackled. "Any luck yet, Mira?" It was Sam, her teammate back at the crawler. "Only old junk and metal scraps," she answered. "Nothing new or strange." Sam laughed softly over the line. "Then maybe you should come back before the storm buries you." 5 more minutes, she said. "I see something on the scanner." A faint signal blinked on her wrist display. It wasn't the usual metal or mineral reading. It was a pulse, repeating every few seconds. Mira followed it downhill, the snow crunching under her boots. The valley narrowed between 2 cliffs, where ice hung like white curtains. The signal grew stronger. She brushed snow away from a lump of frozen metal sticking out of the ground. It was a smooth black pod, about the size of a large crate. Its surface shimmered faintly under her headlamp. She knelt and tapped it gently. The scanner jumped again, showing an energy reading higher than anything she had seen in months. "Sam," she said quickly, "I found something. It's not colony tech. Not any design I know." "Let's describe it," Sam replied. "It's sealed. Looks old but still active. There are marks on it, maybe letters. Wait, I think it's human writing." Myra brushed off the ice with her glove. The words came into view slowly, carved into the side of the pod. Her light caught each letter one by one. The message read, "If you touch me again, I'll be the last person you ever touch." Her heartbeat quickened. The writing was rough, scratched in haste. It looked like a warning, not a label. She hesitated for a moment, then stepped back. "Sam, someone wrote a warning on this thing," she said. "I don't know what it means, but it's serious." "What kind of warning?" Sam asked. She read the message aloud. There was a long silence on the radio before Sam spoke again. "That sounds like trouble. Don't touch it until we scan it properly." "I already brushed the snow off," Mira said, "but I'll wait for the others before opening anything." She marked the location and called in the rest of the team. Within an hour, Raffi and Aina arrived in the crawler, headlights cutting through the storm. The 4 of them worked to free the pod from the ice using heated cutters. When the last bit of frost broke away, the pod gave a low hum that vibrated through the ground. Raffi stepped back. "It's alive," he said quietly. "Or it's waking up," Aina added. The pod's surface shifted like dark glass. A faint light glowed from the seams, tracing lines across its frame. Mira could feel a strange warmth on her face, even through the thick air. She reached toward the pod, but Raffi caught her wrist. "You read the message," he said. "We should not touch this thing again until we know what it does." Mira nodded reluctantly. "We'll call it in. The council needs to see this." They secured the pod onto the crawler using heavy clamps. During the trip back, no one spoke much. The hum from the pod filled the cabin, rising and falling like breathing. When they reached the colony gates, the guards scanned the cargo and frowned. "Unregistered object with active energy signature," one said. "That goes straight to containment." The pod was moved to the main research dome. Inside, the air was warmer and the hum quieter, but the strange tension stayed. The colony council gathered that evening to decide what to do. Most of the members were miners, engineers, or traders, not scientists. They stared at the black pod through the glass wall as if it might leap out at them. Counselor Duran folded his hands. "We have enough problems keeping the reactors running," he said. "We don't need alien devices waking up in our labs." "But it could be valuable," another said. "If this is pre-colony tech, we might learn something new." Mira stood by the observation window. "It has a warning written by a human hand," she said firmly. "Someone found this before us." They wanted others to stay away. That means there's danger. Anna stepped forward. We can study it safely. We have the containment field from the old reactor project. If we treat it like a live reactor core, we'll be fine, Rafi added. At least let us run a scan. If it's a power source, it might help with the shortages. After a long discussion, the council voted to allow limited study under strict safety. Myra's team would handle the first analysis. The next morning, they set up the pod in a sealed lab chamber. The floor glowed with the blue light of containment shields. Mira, Sam, Rafi, and Anna wore full pressure suits with insulated gloves. The instruments hummed as they began the scan. Energy field steady, Sam said, watching his monitor. Composition is unknown. No match in the database. Radiation normal, Anna added. But there's something else. The field around it is shifting in rhythm with our movement, like it's watching us. Rafi asked. Or responding to us. Mira said softly. She leaned closer to the glass wall and watched the light patterns moving across the pod. They formed slow spirals, changing color as if alive. She could almost feel the patterns inside her mind, like faint whispers of thought. The readings grew strange. Small items near the pod began to move slightly as though gravity changed for a moment. A metal tool rolled uphill on its own, then stopped. The sensors blinked red. Gravitational fluctuation detected, Sam said. It's bending local space. It's impossible, Anna said. Not with that size. The hum rose again. A thin line opened on the pod's surface, revealing a soft white glow. The containment field held steady, but the instruments began to overload. Rafi shouted, "Shut it down." They powered off the scanners. The glow faded, and the hum returned to its steady rhythm. Silence filled the chamber. Mira let out a breath. It reacts to direct energy input, she said. It doesn't like being scanned. Rafi rubbed the back of his helmet. Then how do we learn what it is? Carefully, Mira answered. Step by step. They ran smaller tests, using motion sensors instead of energy beams. The pod reacted to touch and proximity, but not to voice or sound. When a robotic arm brushed its surface, it flashed once and sent a short, electromagnetic pulse that knocked out power in half the lab for 3 seconds. That warning was not a joke, Sam muttered. Later, when the lights came back, Mira stood alone by the observation window. She looked at the carved message again. The rough edges of the letters seemed to hold emotion, as if someone had carved them in fear or anger. Whoever had written it had known what the pod could do. But if it was so dangerous, why leave it buried instead of destroying it? Rafi entered quietly. Council wants an update, he said. They think we should hand it to the central research hub on the capital world. If we send it off now, we'll lose control, Myra said. It'll become a weapon or a secret experiment. I want to understand it before that happens. Rafi nodded slowly. You think it's worth the risk? Yes, Myra said. But we'll do it safely. Humanity survives because we take risks and learn. That's what makes us human. Outside the lab, the storm had passed. The frozen valley was calm again under the light of 2 small moons. Inside, the pod rested silent, its faint pulse matching the rhythm of a heartbeat at midnight. The containment cameras recorded a brief flicker inside the pod. For half a second, a shadow appeared in the glow. The shape of a human hand pressed against the inner surface. Then it vanished. The next morning, Myra watched the replay with the team. None of them spoke for a while. Sam finally said, "That was a hand. Someone or something is inside." Or it remembers someone, Anna whispered. The pod gave a single pulse of light, as if in reply. The message carved on its surface seemed to stand out brighter than before. Mira stared at it and thought of the warning again. If you touch me again, I'll be the last person you ever touch. It no longer sounded like a threat. It sounded like sorrow, for the first time. She felt the weight of what they might have uncovered, not just a machine, but something that carried memory, purpose, and danger all at once. She turned off the monitor and looked at her team. We'll find the truth, she said, but we move with care. Whatever this is, it has a story to tell. We just need to listen first. Outside, Dawn touched the frozen plains with pale gold. Inside, the pod waited, silent and alive, as if listening back. The next few days passed in tense silence inside the research dome. Everyone on the colony had heard about the strange pod found in the ice. Some whispered that it was alien. Others said it was a lost human experiment from the early days of space travel. The only thing anyone agreed on was that the message carved on its side was frightening. Mira and her team worked long hours studying the pod. Under strict safety rules, they called it the core because it pulsed like a living heart. Its light glowed in steady waves, soft and white, but when anyone came too close, the glow changed to a deeper shade, almost gold. It seemed aware of its surroundings in a quiet, mysterious way. Inside the lab, Mira watched the monitors as Rafi adjusted a low-energy sensor. Sam sat by the control table, ready to shut down power if anything went wrong. Anna took careful notes while reading the data on her wrist display. Every movement felt heavy with importance. Rafi looked up. "Energy field still stable," he said. "No spikes since the last scan." Mira nodded. "Good. Let's start the pattern test." The robotic arm extended slowly toward the core. Instead of touching it, the arm released a fine beam of harmless light to measure surface patterns. The core reacted at once. Its glow flickered, and strange shapes appeared on its surface. Lines curved and twisted into symbols none of them had seen before. They looked like a mix of geometry and art. Anna whispered, "It is showing us something." Mira leaned closer to the screen. Maybe it is trying to communicate. For a few seconds, the patterns changed rapidly, then faded. The monitors beeped as the energy readings rose sharply, then settled again. The core returned to its calm white color. Rafi frowned. That reaction was not random. It matched our signal timing. Sam tapped his keyboard. It matched the rhythm of human heartbeats. I checked the frequency. It responds to biological rhythm. You mean it reacts to life, not just machines? That is what it looks like, Sam said. It knows when we are near. The team exchanged uneasy glances. The idea that the object could sense them was both exciting and terrifying. They recorded all readings and sent a report to the Colony Council. A few hours later, the council sent back a message, ordering them to continue, but with more security. The colony guards were placed outside the lab. The entire dome was now under lockdown. That night, Mira stayed behind after everyone else left. She sat by the observation window, staring at the core. Its light reflected softly on the walls. She felt strangely calm in its presence, as if it was breathing with her. She wondered who had written the warning and what they had gone through. Mira whispered quietly, "What are you?" To her surprise, the core brightened slightly, just for a moment. It was almost as if it had heard her. The next morning, Rafi brought new data. "I think I know what this is," he said. I compared the readings to old archives. The energy signature is similar to something called a quantifield. Quantifield? Mira repeated. "Yes," Rafi said. "It is theoretical energy that bends probability. In simple words, it changes chances. If it works on a large scale, it can make impossible things happen or prevent them." Sam raised his eyebrows. "You are saying this thing can control luck?" "In a scientific way, yes," Rafi replied. "It can make one event more likely than another by altering quantum paths." Anna looked uneasy. "That sounds dangerous. What if it shifts something important, like gravity or air pressure?" Mira thought for a moment. That could explain the strange movement of objects. It bends probability to change outcomes. That also means touching it could trigger random effects. Rafi nodded. Now the warning makes sense. If someone touched it directly, they might have caused a catastrophic chain reaction. They ran more tests using remote sensors. The results confirmed their theory. The core created a small zone where reality behaved unpredictably. Sometimes a metal ball would fall slower than normal. Sometimes it would freeze in midair for a second. The changes were brief but real. Mira documented everything carefully. Her report concluded that the core was a probability manipulation device left by an unknown species. She named it the Quanticore. When the report reached the council, excitement spread quickly through the colony. The leaders saw the core as a source of power and prestige. They called a meeting to discuss how to use it. Counselor Darren spoke first. If we control this core, we could stabilize the energy network. No more power shortages. We could even trade the technology with other colonies. Others agreed eagerly, but Myra stood and said, "You are forgetting the warning. It is not a tool we can control. It is unpredictable and possibly alive. We need to learn before we use." The room grew tense. Darren frowned. "You are a technician, not a philosopher. We will take care of politics. You focus on science." Mira's hands clenched. "If you move too fast, you will put everyone in danger." Anna spoke quietly beside her. "She is right. The core changes the laws of nature. We need time." The council ended the meeting without agreement. Some wanted research. Others wanted to send the core to the military. The debate spread through the colony, dividing people into groups. Some saw it as hope. Others feared it was a curse. That night, the tension grew worse. A small group of outsiders arrived on Arano-authorized salvagers who had intercepted the news broadcast. They wanted the core for themselves. Their leader, a tall man named Braun, met with some of the less loyal workers near the loading bay. Braun said, "That artifact is worth a fortune. You help us get it, and you will live rich for the rest of your life." The workers hesitated, but greed won. They gave him the layout of the research dome and the timing of the patrols. 2 nights later, the attack began. Mira and her team were in the lab running new readings when alarms blared. The door shook under heavy blows. Sam ran to the control board and sealed all locks. "What is happening?" Anna shouted. Mira's radio crackled with the voice of a guard. "Hostiles in the dome, armed. They are trying to reach the core." Rafi looked terrified. "If they touch it, we are finished." "It's command. We will protect it." "Sam, cut all external power." "Rafi, engage containment shield." "Anna, back up the data." The lights flickered as the outer systems went offline. The only light left came from the core's steady white glow. The door burst open and 3 figures stepped in wearing cold suits and visors. Braun led them with a stun rifle in hand. "Step aside," he ordered. "We are taking the core." Myra stood between them and the chamber. "If you touch it, you will not survive."
Ow.
Braun laughed. "You are trying to scare me." He stepped forward, ignoring her warning. Rafi whispered to Mira, "The shield will not hold if they shoot." Mira raised her hand. "You do not understand what that thing can do. It is not a power source. It is a living force." Braun aimed his rifle at her. "Move." Before he could fire, the core reacted. Its glow changed from white to gold. The air in the room shifted, heavy and electric. The intruders froze, feeling the pressure of unseen energy. A sudden pulse burst from the core, and the lights flared. The rifles in their hands turned cold and brittle, then shattered into dust. Braun staggered backward in shock. "What is this?" The core pulsed again. The containment field bent, but held. The salvagers panicked and ran out of the room, leaving their equipment behind. The alarms stopped as suddenly as they had begun. Silence returned. Mira and her team stood still, breathing hard. The core's glow softened and returned to its calm rhythm. Anna spoke first. "It protected itself. Or it protected us," Sam said. Rafi looked at the broken rifles. "It changed their structure. It shifted probability to make them fail." Mira stared at the core with new respect. It reacts not just to touch, but to intention. It knows the difference between harm and study. That night, the colony was shaken but safe. The council declared martial law and placed the core under heavier guard. Mira and her team were praised for their courage, yet she felt uneasy. If the core could sense intent, then it was more than a machine. It had awareness. Over the next few days, strange things began to happen. Tools floated for seconds before falling. Power systems repaired themselves without human help. Even the weather outside the dome grew calmer. The core's influence was spreading, Anna said quietly. It is reaching beyond the lab. The energy field is expanding. Rafi checked the data. At this rate, it will cover the whole valley within a week. Mira looked around. We must decide soon. Either we contain it or we understand it. Otherwise, it will act on its own. That evening, Mira sat again by the glass wall, watching the steady pulse of light. She remembered the handprint they had seen inside. For the first time, she spoke to it clearly. We protected you today, but I need to know what you want. The light inside the core brightened and swirled into faint shapes. For a brief second, it looked like a human figure standing in a field of stars. Then it faded again. Mira whispered, I will find your story. I promise. The core answered with one soft pulse, like a heartbeat. Outside, the storm winds died away completely, leaving the colony under a calm and silent sky. Something new had begun. The colony of Aaron was waking slowly when Mira and her team returned to the lab. The sky above the frozen valley glowed pale blue. The light reflected off the icy cliffs, making the world shimmer like glass. The storm from the previous nights had left the land clean and quiet. The only sound that remained was the steady pulse of the quanticore inside the dome. Its light flowed like a calm river, moving in rhythm with the room. Mira felt its presence even before stepping through the doors. Inside, the team began reviewing the core's latest data. The readings had grown more complex overnight. Probability shifts were not limited to the lab. Small changes had begun appearing outside. Tools moved differently. Water in the pipes had flowed unevenly, almost as if the core had adjusted the paths of least resistance. Small electrical surges happened in the colony, harmless but unusual. Mira could sense the growing awareness of the artifact. We need to tell the council, Mira said, speaking softly. The core's influence is spreading. Anna nodded. It is still safe, but it is reaching further than we expected. If we ignore it, the effects could become chaotic. Sam frowned. Do we have any way to measure or predict what it might do next? Rafi shook his head. Not completely. That is the danger. But we can guide it with human presence. The core reacts to intention. If we remain careful, it will stay controlled. Mira placed her hands lightly on the observation panel. Then our job is not just to study it. It is to work with it, to guide it. Outside, the colony stirred. Farmers loaded supplies, miners checked machinery, and engineers repaired broken systems. The news of the core had spread, but the townspeople did not yet understand its power. Some were nervous, some were excited. Many simply continued their work. Mira knew that if the core reacted to human intent, it would respond to these everyday actions as well. Later that day, a new threat appeared. The salvagers who had attacked the lab before were regrouping near the colony outskirts. Braun had not given up. He gathered his team in a small cave near the cliff edge and spoke to them with quiet urgency. This artifact is worth more than anything we've seen, he said. We only failed because we underestimated it. Tomorrow, we hit the colony again. But this time, we come prepared. The salvagers had scavenged old equipment, including electromagnetic disruptors and high-energy cutters. They believed brute force could take the core. They did not understand that the core's power responded not just to contact, but to intent and consciousness. The next morning, the team held an emergency council meeting. Mira, Rafi, Anna, and Sam presented their findings. The core is aware of intentions, Mira explained. It will react to harm and to care differently. It can protect itself, and possibly others, but it cannot be predicted fully with machines alone. We need human cooperation to manage it. Councillor Duran frowned. Are you suggesting we train the colony to operate this? Probability core? That sounds impossible. Mira shook her head. Not train it. Guide it. The people of this colony are already solving problems every day. They repair broken machines. They work together to survive. That same human creativity and morality can influence the core in a positive way. That is our strength. Sam added, we cannot stop the salvagers alone. The core may protect us if the people cooperate, but we must act as a community. The council reluctantly agreed. an alert went out across the colony. People gathered at the central square. Mira addressed them, her voice firm but calm. The core is not just a machine. It can affect reality, but only if we act together. If we try to fight it with force, we will fail. But if we work with it, using our minds, our care, and our skill, we can protect the colony and even improve it. Every small action counts. At first, the crowd looked uncertain, but then people began sharing ideas. Farmers suggested using their tractors to create a perimeter around the lab. Engineers offered reflective panels to amplify light and energy to confuse potential intruders. Miners provided tools for quick barricades. Children even offered to place small sensors to monitor the core. The entire community had become part of the plan. That afternoon, the salvagers attacked again. Mira and her team were ready. The farmers drove their tractors in coordinated patterns to block the approach. Engineers activated the panels and sensors, creating light and magnetic interference. The core's pulse grew stronger, responding to the careful intentions of the people. The air shimmered, as if reality itself bent in subtle ways. The intruders stumbled as the probability shifts made their weapons malfunction. Ropes snapped. Tools fell from their hands. Their path toward the lab became increasingly impossible. Mira guided the team from inside the lab. Keep calm. Every action matters. Do not panic. Let the core respond. Inside, the core pulsed with radiant gold light. The energy spread through the shields, subtly altering the outside environment. Snow drifted to create barriers. Ice hardened under the salvagers' feet, slowing them down. They yelled in frustration, but the town had not used any weapons. All the defenses were human ingenuity, coordinated with care and thought. Anna whispered to Mira, "It is working. The core is reacting to everyone's intention. It is protecting the colony." Rafi nodded. "And it is learning from us. It is aware." By the end of the day, the salvagers fled. They left behind broken equipment and empty supplies. Braun had never expected the colony to act as one. They had underestimated the combination of human creativity and the core's mysterious power. The next morning, Mira walked outside to inspect the damage. The colony was mostly intact. Tools lay scattered, snow had shifted strangely, and small patches of ice had formed protective barriers on slopes that normally would have been treacherous. Every action the core had taken had been precise, measured, and safe. Mira turned to Sam. "It's like it understood what we wanted. Not just our commands, but our intentions." Sam nodded. "It is more than a machine. It is like a partner," Anna added. "It responded to care. It recognized that we were protecting the colony, not trying to harm it or use it for profit." Rafi looked thoughtful. "This changes everything. The core is not a weapon. It is a reflection of us. Our ethics, our creativity, and our cooperation shape its effect." Mira smiled slightly. "Then humanity's best tool is not technology alone. It is our ability to think, care, and work together. That is why we survived today. That is why we can guide the core safely." The council met again to discuss the next steps. Mira suggested controlled studies to better understand the core's abilities and to expand the protective perimeter. Anna and Rafi emphasized monitoring its influence on the valley. Sam proposed developing a system to translate human intention into safe. Probability adjustments. The council approved all measures. The colony began to feel a sense of hope. What had been fear turned into determination. The core was no longer a threat. It was a challenge. It was a chance for humanity to prove its intelligence, responsibility, and courage. Over the following days, small experiments were conducted. They moved objects with the core without touching them. They repaired minor equipment by guiding probability. They even grew small patches of plants in unexpected areas, showing the potential for environmental restoration. Every experiment reinforced one truth. The core could be trusted if guided by care, ethics, and human creativity. Myra often reflected on the handprint. They had seen inside the core. Perhaps it had belonged to the person who first discovered it. Perhaps that person had understood the same truth, that only careful, responsible humans could interact safely with such power. The warning scratched on its side was not a threat. It was guidance, a lesson to any who followed. One evening, Mira walked through the village. Children played near the central square. Farmers repaired tractors. Engineers laughed as they calibrated sensors. The core pulsed softly in the lab nearby, sending subtle waves of energy into the colony. It was calm. It was safe. Myra smiled. Humanity had done something extraordinary. They had faced a power beyond comprehension and responded not with fear, greed, or violence, but with intelligence, courage, and cooperation. The core had not been tamed. It had been guided. In the quiet of the evening, Mira whispered, "We will continue to learn. We will continue to protect. And we will continue to prove that humanity is worth the chance." The core pulsed in reply. Its light flowed like a living heartbeat. It was alive. It was aware. And it was waiting for the next step, trusting humanity to rise to the challenge. The colony of Erin, small and resilient, had proven that ordinary people, working together, could achieve extraordinary things. The Quanticore had chosen well. The colony of Erin had changed since the first encounter with the Quanticore. People moved with purpose, knowing their actions had meaning beyond themselves. Farmers and miners, engineers and traders, everyone worked together to maintain safety and order. Even the children, who had once simply played in the snow, now understood that the core's presence required care and respect. Mira walked through the central square, observing the energy flowing through the colony. The reflective panels had been adjusted, the sensors calibrated, and the protective barriers expanded. She paused near the edge of the lab's containment field. The core pulsed steadily, light flowing like a heartbeat. She could feel the subtle waves of energy even without her gloves or suit. Sam joined her, carrying a tablet with the latest readings. "The core is stabilizing faster than expected," he said. "It responds better to calm and careful activity than to direct interference. We can try more advanced experiments soon." Mira nodded. "We need to understand its limits. So far, everything has been controlled, but we do not know how far it can reach. It is powerful, but we must be responsible." Anna and Raffi entered the square with engineers carrying new instruments. "We have designed a lattice," Anna explained. "It will translate human intention into safe probability shifts. We can use it to guide the core, but it requires constant observation and care." Myra examined the lattice. It was intricate, a web of sensors, light reflectors, and insulated conduits, designed to communicate with the core without touching it directly. Each element had been carefully calculated to maintain safety. Mira felt a sense of pride. Human ingenuity had created a way to work with a force far greater than themselves. Raffi raised a concern. "The lattice will need constant monitoring. One mistake could cause unintended changes. Are we ready for that responsibility?" Mira looked at her team. "We are. But it will take more than just the four of us. The entire colony must participate, carefully and ethically." The next few days were filled with preparation. Citizens volunteered to assist, each following strict protocols. Engineers taught how the lattice functioned. Farmers helped stabilize the perimeter, and miners reinforced the outer walls. The core pulsed steadily in response to human activity, almost as if it approved. Mira realized that the people themselves had become part of the experiment. Their cooperation was the key to controlling something beyond comprehension. Finally, the day came for the first controlled test. The entire team gathered inside the lab, and the colony watched from observation points. The lattice was activated, and the core's pulse quickened. A small, broken section of the colony's water system was targeted for repair. Mira spoke softly. "Remember, focus on intention. We guide, not force." The lattice translated their careful focus into subtle probability adjustments. Water began to flow smoothly through the broken pipes. Small leaks sealed themselves. Tools that were previously damaged reformed enough to be useful again. The core had responded exactly as intended. The crowd cheered. Humanity had demonstrated its ability to work with a force beyond technology. The Phi moment was clear. Ordinary people had achieved extraordinary results through intelligence, cooperation, and care. But the celebration was short-lived. The team discovered a minor but alarming anomaly. A small fluctuation had occurred in the core's outer field, causing a brief power surge across part of the colony. Although harmless, it was a warning. Even controlled experiments carried risk. Mira turned to her team. "We need stricter monitoring. The core is powerful and we cannot predict every outcome. Every action must be deliberate and ethical." Anna agreed. "We will create a rotation schedule. Teams will observe, record, and respond to any change immediately. The core will guide us, but we must be vigilant," Rafi added. "We also need contingency plans. If anything goes wrong, we must know how to respond without panic." The team spent the next week preparing for the core's next phase. This time the goal was larger: to repair the failing terraforming network on the frozen outskirts of the colony. Water channels had iced over and vegetation domes were collapsing. Human skill alone could not fix it. But with the core's assistance, guided by intention and ethics, they might restore the land. The plan required precision and cooperation. Farmers coordinated the flow of melted ice through the channels. Engineers adjusted the lattice to transmit probability guidance to the broken sections. Miners reinforced tunnels to prevent collapse. Children assisted by placing small markers for sensors and reflecting panels. Every human action counted. The day of the experiment arrived. Myra stood at the observation window, watching the core pulse brighter than ever. The lattice hummed with energy, translating human care into subtle probability adjustments. Water began to flow through the broken channels. Ice melted and refroze in the correct pattern. Vegetation domes regained stability. Suddenly, a section of the outer dome began to flicker. A gust of wind carried loose snow into the lattice sensors. The core's light brightened sharply. Myra realized a misalignment had caused a temporary spike in probability. "Focus," she shouted. Everyone remain calm. Let the core respond to intention, not panic. The citizens steadied themselves. Engineers corrected the sensor alignment. Farmers adjusted the water flow manually to support the core's guidance. Slowly, the anomaly corrected itself. The core's light returned to a calm rhythm. Mira breathed deeply. "We did it. We guided it and it responded." Sam looked at her. "It is learning from us. It understands deliberate action." Aina nodded. "The core respects responsibility. It will respond to care, ethics, and cooperation," Rafi added. "This is more than a machine. It is a partner, and we are learning how to work together." Over the next few days, the colony observed the positive effects of the experiment. The land began to recover. Channels stayed open. Domes stabilized. Even small patches of crops grew faster and healthier. The core's influence, guided by human intention, transformed the environment in safe and sustainable ways. But the team also faced a moral choice. Some council members suggested using the core to produce wealth, to manipulate markets, or to give the colony political advantage. Mira and her team rejected these ideas. The core responded to care, not greed. Exploiting it would risk disaster. Myra reminded the council, "We are stewards, not owners. Our duty is to guide, not to exploit. If we prioritize profit over care, we will fail," Aina added. "Every action we take is recorded in the core's response. It remembers intention. We cannot cheat responsibility." Councillor Duran reluctantly agreed. The colony continued to focus on restoration, research, and safe exploration. People understood that humanity's greatest strength was intelligence, cooperation, and ethical behavior. Then came the ultimate test. A section of the terraforming network had completely collapsed. Ice dams blocked water flow. Domes were failing. If they did not act, part of the colony would lose crops, and the core's influence could cause chaotic probability shifts. The team realized that one of them would need to stay near the lattice permanently. Observing and adjusting the system, Anna volunteered. "I will stay. I can monitor the core constantly and respond to any changes." Myra protested. It should be a shared responsibility. We all take turns. Anna shook her head. If one person is dedicated to the core, we can ensure it operates safely. I am willing to sacrifice comfort for the colony, the team agreed. Anna moved into the monitoring chamber. She worked tirelessly, observing readings, adjusting lattice settings, and communicating with the team outside. The core pulsed steadily in response to her careful guidance. Days turned into weeks. Under Anna's vigilance, the terraforming network stabilized. Water flowed naturally. Ice dams melted in controlled patterns. Domes remained intact. Even crops in difficult areas flourished. The core's power, guided by human care, transformed the frozen land into a livable environment. Myra and Rafi visited Anna frequently, bringing supplies and reporting outside observations. Sam updated charts and maps, recording every detail. The colony watched from observation points, inspired by the dedication of one person working with extraordinary technology. One evening, Anna spoke through the comms. I think it understands now. It knows we mean no harm. It is calm, steady, and responsive. Myra smiled. Then we have learned the lesson. Power alone is not enough. Human care, ethics, and cooperation guide it safely. That is what makes us human. The core pulsed like a heartbeat, soft and steady. The lattice hummed quietly, translating human intention into safe probability adjustments. Outside, the colony thrived. People worked together, solved problems, and celebrated small successes. For the first time, Mira felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Humanity had faced a force far beyond comprehension and had guided it with intelligence, ethics, and cooperation. The core had become more than a machine. It had become a partner, reflecting humanity's best qualities. Anna remained in the monitoring chamber, her dedication a symbol of responsibility and sacrifice. Mira knew that without her careful attention, the colony might have failed. Yet Anna's choice inspired everyone. Ordinary people could achieve extraordinary results through courage, focus, and care. As Mira looked out across the snow-covered valley, she whispered to herself, "We have proven that humanity is worth the chance." The colony of Erin had changed completely since the discovery of the Quanticore. The frozen valley no longer seemed lifeless. Streams of water flowed through repaired channels. Vegetation domes glowed with green life, and the snow-covered cliffs reflected sunlight that seemed warmer than before. The people moved with purpose, knowing that their efforts mattered not just for survival, but for shaping a living world. Myra walked along the perimeter of the observation deck, above the lab. She looked down at the core, which pulsed steadily in its containment lattice. Anna sat inside, monitoring every reading, adjusting the lattice when small fluctuations occurred. The core's energy flowed through the conduits, subtly influencing the valley beyond. Every action taken by the colony was guided by careful intention. Mira felt pride for what humanity had achieved. Sam approached with a tablet in hand. "The core is stable," he said. "It has adjusted to our actions. The probability fields are no longer fluctuating unpredictably. Its response to human guidance is consistent." Mira smiled. "Then it has learned from us, and we have learned from it." Wafi joined them. "The terraforming network is fully operational. Crops are growing in areas that were once frozen solid. Water is flowing naturally, and the domes are self-regulating." Myra nodded. "This is more than survival. We are thriving because of cooperation, intelligence, and care. We have proven ourselves." Yana's voice came through the comms. "The core is calm. I do not detect any irregularities. Its energy is steady. I believe it is ready for wider applications." The council gathered that evening to discuss the next phase. They had received reports from other colonies about environmental issues, failing settlements, and struggling populations. The core, guided by human intention, could be used to restore ecosystems, repair damaged structures, and improve the quality of life for others. Councillor Duran spoke first. "We have been given a remarkable tool. If we use it responsibly, we could change the rim worlds. but we must ensure that we act with caution and ethics. The core is powerful. Misuse could be disastrous. Mira stood. We have learned that power alone is not enough. Care, ethics, and cooperation are what guide it safely. We must remember this in everything we do, Anna added. The core responds to intention. We can expand its influence safely, but only if we remain vigilant and responsible. That is our duty. The Council approved a plan to carefully extend the core's assistance to other struggling areas. Teams from Erin would travel to nearby colonies, guided by the lattice and careful observation. Each mission would follow strict protocols. Every action would be deliberate, monitored, and ethical. Over the following weeks, Mira and her team trained volunteers. Farmers, engineers, miners, and scientists all learned to coordinate with the lattice, using human intention to guide probability safely. Children participated in small ways, placing sensors and markers to assist the core's guidance. The entire community became part of the process. The first external mission targeted a small settlement where water channels had frozen over and crops had failed. Mira led a team with Sam Rafi and Anna coordinating remotely from Erin. The core's energy was transmitted through a mobile lattice, translating careful human guidance into subtle probability adjustments. The results were immediate. Water flowed through the broken channels. Ice melted and refroze in controlled patterns. Crops began to flourish. Buildings that had been damaged were subtly repaired. Every adjustment followed the guidance of human intention. And the core responded with precision. The people of the settlement were amazed. They had never seen anything like it. Mira explained carefully. This is the result of human intelligence, cooperation. In care, working with the core, it responds to our actions and intentions, but only when we act responsibly. As the days passed, the core's influence extended to other colonies. Each mission followed the same principles. Human cooperation guided its power. Communities that had once struggled began to thrive. The Quanta Core became a symbol of hope, showing that humanity could solve problems with intelligence, ethics, and courage. Back at Erin, Mira watched the valley. The land had transformed. Water flowed freely. Vegetation grew in carefully repaired patches. And small wildlife had returned to areas that had been frozen and lifeless. The core pulsed steadily, sending waves of energy through the valley. Every pulse was a reminder of the partnership between humanity and the extraordinary technology they had learned to guide. One evening, Mira gathered her team inside the lab. We have achieved something extraordinary, she said. But the core is still a responsibility. We cannot become complacent. We must continue to observe, learn, and guide. Anna nodded. I will continue to monitor it here. It requires constant attention. But the lattice allows us to extend its benefits safely. We can expand its reach, but we must remain vigilant, Rafi added. We have proven that ordinary people working together can achieve extraordinary things. That is humanity's strength. Sam smiled. The core reflects our best qualities: intelligence, care, cooperation, and ethics. That is why it responds to us. Mira looked at the pulsing light of the core. It is a partner. Not a tool, not a weapon, but a partner. And it will help us build a better future if we continue to act responsibly. The people of Erin held a celebration to mark the colony's recovery and the core's safe integration. Families gathered in the central square. Children played near the repaired fountains. Farmers shared stories of repaired channels and thriving crops. Engineers and miners exchanged tools and techniques. The entire community had contributed to the success. Mira watched the celebration, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. Humanity had faced an incredible challenge, something far beyond ordinary technology, and had responded with intelligence, cooperation, and ethical guidance. They had proven that human qualities were stronger than fear or greed. Anna spoke to the team from her monitoring station. The core is calm. It has adapted to our guidance. The energy readings are stable. I believe it understands that we are responsible stewards. Then we have succeeded. Not because of the core alone, but because of humanity. Intelligence, care, and cooperation guided something beyond understanding. That is our greatest achievement. The next day, Mira led a team to the highest ridge above the colony. From there, she could see the entire valley. Streams of water glimmered in the sun. Vegetation domes shone green and gold. Small wildlife moved cautiously across the snow. The core pulsed steadily inside its containment lattice, sending subtle waves of energy that spread gently through the land. Mira felt the presence of something extraordinary. The core had become a living part of the valley, a partner to humanity, reflecting their best qualities. She understood that this was only the beginning. The core could be used to restore other colonies, repair damaged ecosystems, and improve life across distant worlds. But it required human care, attention, and responsibility. She turned to Sam Raffi. We have done more than survive. We have shown that humans can rise to challenges beyond technology. We can guide power responsibly. That is what makes us human. Sam smiled. And we have learned that intelligence alone is not enough. Ethics, cooperation, and care are what guide true progress. Raffi nodded. The core is proof that humanity's best qualities are also our greatest strength. Anna spoke quietly. It is a reminder that responsibility comes with opportunity. We can achieve great things if we act with care and purpose. Myra looked at the pulsing light. And we will. We will continue to guide it. We will continue to learn. And we will continue to prove that humanity is worth the chance. As the sun set over the frozen valley, the core glowed softly in its lattice. Its energy flowed steadily through the land. Streams, domes, and crops thrived. Children played and laughed. Farmers and engineers worked together. The valley had been transformed. Humanity had triumphed not through force, but through intelligence, care, cooperation. The Quanticore had become more than a machine. It was a living partner, reflecting the best of humanity. And humanity had proven, once again, even the greatest challenges could be met with courage, intelligence, and ethical action. Mira stood on the ridge. Looking out over the valley, she whispered, "We have learned the lesson. We have proven ourselves. And together, we will continue to shape a future worth living." The core pulsed in reply, steady and calm as if acknowledging her words. The light spread gently through the valley, touching every corner with warmth and energy. Aaron had survived. Aaron had thrived. Humanity had succeeded, and the Quanticore waited patiently, ready to respond to the next challenge, guided by the intelligence, care, and courage of those who were willing to rise to the responsibility. The frozen valley had become a living symbol of hope. Humanity had turned danger into opportunity. The core had become a partner, and together they had begun a new dawn.